Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Vakratunda Mahakaya Suryakoti Samaprabha Nirvignam Kuru Me Deva Sarvakaryeshu Sarvada. Gurur Brahma Gurur Vishnu Gurudevo Maheshwaraha Gurur Sakshat Parabrahma Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Team Param Vedanta warmly welcomes you to the first summary session of Panchadashi, the transformational Vedantic text authored by the great warrior saint Swami Vidyaranya. We began these classes in June after completing 2 years of studying the Bhagavad Gita. If we thought the Gita was inspirational, Panchadashi has been an intensive workout of all that we learned. Vidyaranya Swami takes us systematically through 7 stages of our spiritual evolution, beginning with realizing our ignorance or ajnana, then moving on to avarana, then vikshepa, then paroksha gnana, then aparoksha gnana, and finally to shoka nivritti, and ultimately to discovering our true nature of being, which is that of Tripti, constant and complete fulfillment. Have we made that leap of faith from paroksha to aparoksha gnana? In today's class, Dr. Hegde sir and Dr. Anupama ma'am will summarize the first 70 verses of the Tripti Deepa. This comprises the first half of the first line of the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad shloka. What is the nature of the Atma? Who is this Purusha? Can we claim that I am that? Atmanam chet vijaniyat ayam asmi iti Purushaha. Let us listen with all ears, so we are not only informed, but transformed. Over to you, Dr. Hegde, sir.
Thank you very much, Panaga. Sadashiva Samarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam. Om Namah Shri Shankarananda Guru Padambu Janmane Savilasa Mahamoha Graha Gras Eka Karmane. This is a very popular phrase, Ye dil mange more. And this is the irony of the human mind. The human mind can never be fulfilled. We still want more and more. However, fortunately for us, Vedanta has a solution. And what is the solution? Vedanta says, if you have knowledge of our infinite nature, then we have Tripti. Then we are content with whatever we have. And that is the quality of a Sthita Prajna. Arjuna was keen to know what are the qualities of a Sthita Prajna. And Shri Krishna gives a brilliant answer in verse 55 of the second chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. Shri Bhagavanu Vacha Prajahati yada kaman sarvan partha manogatha atmanevatmana tushtaha Sthita Prajnato tadocchate. Who is a Sthita Prajna? One who is Prajahati, who is able to drop or who will not have Sarvan Partha Manogata. Sarvan Kama, all the desires that arise in the mind suddenly vanish to a person who is Atman Evatmana Tushtaha, the one who knows his true nature, the one who knows that I am Atma Brahma. In today's class, we will look at this magnum opus, the best of the best. Panchadashi itself is a great scriptural work for us. And of that, Tripti Deepa is considered the best of all the Panchadashi chapters. And it is the longest also, 298 verses. So in the first class, we will look at a summary of 1 to 70, verse 70. What is the proof of Tripti? And this is demonstrated in all the sayings of Swami Anubhavanandaji. Nothing to do, nowhere to go. When a person is utterly fulfilled,
You can go from here. You can go from here. I just close so that you'll have some privacy there.
when a person is utterly fulfilled, a person attains to a state of nothing to do, nowhere to go. In this summary, I will minimize talking about this great Acharya because there is so much that we can spend on the verses itself, and that is the great contribution he has given to us. After Adi Shankara, this is one of the biggest names that we have in Advaita Vedanta, Vidya Aranya. And how did he become Vidya Aranya? Aranya means a forest of knowledge. There is one story that I really love to share, and even if it takes time, I will share the story of how Vidyaranya came from utter poverty. He experienced a lot of poverty in his life. And being a great Upasaka, he could invoke goddess Lakshmi. And being an Upasaka, he could invoke goddess Lakshmi. And sorry, there are a lot of people who are being unmuted and disturbing. Please check if your status is muted. However much he pleaded to his goddess, she didn't seem to appear. And in a I can't say frustration, he made a decision to take sannyas. It is said on that day when he took sannyas, goddess Lakshmi appeared to him and said, "What do you want? I am here to give you whatever you want." So it is reported that Swamiji said, "I have everything that I need. Now that I have taken sannyas, I don't want anything." She said, "See, I have come, and I've come on your request. You must ask me for something." And he says, "Really, I don't need anything." And finally he said, "If you don't want anything, I will give you everything." Remember these words. When you don't want anything, you will get everything. And that is the essence of Tripti. When you are utterly fulfilled, you have everything. There is nothing that you really want. And that is the greatness of the understanding of what really Tripti or what Purnatvam is. Being so great and being so blessed, there was a lot of transformation in this temple, Sringeri, where he later on, both he and his brother became acharyas. His contribution to Vedanta is immense. So immense that his commentaries on his Vedas, it is said that Veda Vyasa, who is a Chiranjeevi, himself appeared to him and blessed him. And among all his works, of course, one of the greatest treasures we have is Panchadashi. The word Panchadashi literally means 15. Panchadashi also means the cool illumination of Purnima, of a full moon. The cool illumination, or how an illumined person, Brahma Vidya Acharya, an awakened person, is able to enlighten you, but not in the manner of a scorching sun, but in the manner of bright moonlight. Each of these 15 chapters are called Prakaranam. Being Panchadashi, there are 15 chapters divided into 3 important sectors dealing with the topic of Sat, Chit and Ananda. The first 5 are called Viveka Panchakam. The next 5 are called Deepa Panchakam. And our present chapter, Tripti Deepa, comes under number 7 within the Deepa Panchakam. And 11 to 15 is the Ananda Panchakam. Coming to our present topic of Tripti Deepa, like all these chapters are independent in themselves. Now, sometimes you may ask, why did you jump to chapter 7 without going through 1, 2, 3, and so on? At some stage earlier, we have studied as a group, but not online, chapters 1, 2, and 3. And I can tell you each of these chapters are so wonderful because Vidyaranya has got a technique of giving you what is called a prakriya. Amita. Vidyaranya has got a technique of giving new forms of prakriyas. Somebody who's okay. And also,
Both, then I can mute them when.
all right. So each person who's logging in is disturbing us. All right. Now, each chapter is complete in itself, and at some stage, I know these chapters are difficult. It is our promise for all those who are online and who are not been our students in our direct classes. Many of you want the Gita classes to continue. So in future, we will have once a week important verses of the Bhagavad Gita, but we will look into other topics like the Panchadashi, Kathopanishad as a parallel, as a second class also. Now, the greatness of Panchadashi, and it begins in the opening verse of the first chapter, is a word called Sukha Bodhaya. Sukha Bodhaya is, I will try to make it, Sukha means easy, Bodha means knowledge. Vidyaranya gives us a promise. I will try to make it as easy and as digestible as possible. But then you may ask me, Tripti Deepa is one of the most difficult texts that we have studied. Of course. Now, we are looking at Vedanta. We are looking at the highest of Parama Purusharthas. And the way Tripti Deepa is brought out in a form of a discussion where you have a Purva Pakshi, a person who takes the opposing point of view and challenges the Siddhanta. And in this process, many of our doubts are going to be clarified. And in today's summary, we will try to make a question-answer session where I will ask Dr. Anupama these Purva Pakshi questions and see, let us have a little clarity on this. I have chanted this beautiful Mangala Charan. Namashri Shankarananda. Shankarananda, if you look, is also one of the acharyas of Sringeri Matha. That is what some people have said, but when I've gone to Sringeri website, I'm not able to find his name among the acharyas. But for both Bharati Tirtha, that is Vidyaranya's younger brother, who became an acharya before him, both of them, Vidyaranya and Bharati Tirtha, were both Mathadipatis of Sringeri, and both of them students of Shankarananda. Namashri Shankarananda Guru Padambu Janmane. A student begins with prostrations to his Guru and to the feet of the Guru, which is like a lotus. Pada Ambu. Ambu means water. Janmane. What is born out of water? It is the lotus. I prostrate to the lotus feet of my water, of my Guru. Now, the rest is one word. For us to read, the teachers have broken it up. One word, Savilasa Mahamoha Graha Gras Eka Karmane. And whenever you have a compound word, we have to go from right to the left. That means Eka Karmani. What is the only job of my Guru? My only job of my Guru is to be able to swallow that big monster of Mahamoha. That great monster, which is the monster of ignorance. That monster of ignorance, because of which we have so much of suffering in the world. Savilasa, along with all the paraphernalia that ignorance brings out about. With that introduction, let us come to the opening topic. That is the first topic, Avatarika. Avatarika or introduction. In the first two verses itself, Sri Vidyaranya Swami will tell us that this whole chapter is going to be an analysis of one mantra from the Brihadaranyaka 4.4.12. Sharirika Brahmana, Atmanam Ched Vijaniya, Ayam Asmiti Purusha, Kimichan Kasya Kamaya Shariram Anusanjvaret. Now, this is a discussion between the great teacher Yajnavalika and also an outstanding student, King Janaka, in the Sharirika Brahmana, which is 4.4.12. Before we begin, all Vedanta, whatever topic we are studying, maybe Bhagavad Gita, the Upanishads, they are all addressing one primary question: what is my true nature? Who am I? And when you inquire, of course, with the help of the scriptures, you will understand that who am I is not a very simple question. In fact, this is the most important question to understand. Even in the Tripti Deepa, verses 1 to about 20 or 22 deals with this who am I question. And if you are able to understand and if you are able to explain this to yourself and to others, this is our sadhana. Let it be our sadhana. Let it be very clear to understand how Vidyaranya tries to explain that all of us are a mixture of anatma, material body mind, along with the immaterial atma. As Bhagavan Ramana said, in a simple formula to remember, naham deham. My real nature is someone other than my body. The body is only a medium through which I'm able to interact to you and you're able to listen to you. But the real me, and that is the whole purpose of Vedanta, which comes through Koham, is to discover that I am Saha Aham Asmi. I am that. Aham Asmi, it is a Mahavakya that I am that. Why do we study all Vedanta? Because as human beings, as Purusha, we have a certain knot in the heart that is called the Hridaya Granthi. That is why when we study the Upanishad at a certain stage, there comes that great opening. The teacher will say, Vidyate Hridaya Granthi, Chindante Sarva Samshaya, Kshiyanti Cha Asya Karmani, Tasmin Drishte Parabari. Now, all of us have to work with that knot in your heart. What is that knot in the heart? It is a combination of avidya, kama, karma. Avidya means I do not know that I am really infinite. I think I am this limited being because when I function through this body-mind, I see a lot of limitations. And my mind generates a lot of ideas. Now, if I have this, then I will be complete. And that is called karma. And once karma comes, we cannot keep quiet. We have to do something or the other. All our problems are doing. And therefore, once you do some activity, you generate punya or papa. And that perpetuates the cycle of punarapi jananam, punarapi maranam. I will go to our favorite Bhagavad Gita, chapter 5, verse 15, second half, which is the diagnosis for all our problems. Ajnanena avritam jnanam pena muhyanti jantavaha. Lord Krishna says jantavaha. All these jantavaha means we can take it as beings. Muhyanti. Why are we suffering? Because of one problem. Our jnanam, our wisdom has been covered. Ajnanena avritam jnanam. We come to the opening part of this verse. Few things. Today we are going up to verse 70, but I will focus mainly on the first few verses only. What is this Purushaha? Purushaha, it means Purusha actually, but in this what is called Chandas Prayoga, the Upanishad pronounces it as a Purushaha. We'll retain it for our study as Purusha. Purusha retains means all of us. Who is this individual? What is the meaning of Aham Asmi? What is the meaning of I am? And then what is this 7 states of spiritual evolution? Very briefly, Purusha, as I already said, means the individual. And the Upanishad commands us that we should know who this Atma is. Atma means Paramatma. Vijaniyat, we should know it very clearly. The Jivatma should know Paramatma. How does the Jivatma know Paramatma? As I am Asmi Iti. That means I am Paramatma. This is the claim. This is the exclaim. That is why towards the end, the student or the teacher of Tripti Deepa cannot control himself and goes into an ecstasy when a person realizes I am that. It means Aikya Rupena. That means we are not two. This is the meaning of non-dual. There is an apparent separation, but we are not separate, non-dual. And it should be known as if it is myself. That is the meaning of the word aparoksha. We will touch on all these. So the first line says, Jivatma should know Paramatma as I am Paramatma. Now, whenever you know about Paramatma or Brahman indirectly, through the teachings of the scriptures, it is called Brahma Asti. But when the teachers help you to understand that Brahman that you're studying about is none other than you, then you come to an understanding of Brahma Asmi. The whole of Tripti Deepa is a journey from Brahma Asti to Brahma Asmi. Brahma Asti comes through Paroksha Jnanam. Brahma Asmi is Aparoksha Jnanam, the knowledge that I am Brahman. The whole of today's class will dwell on these forms of terms. Now, I will include Dr. Anupama in the discussion, and I will ask her what are the Purva Pakshi's questions. Now, Swamiji says this very clearly. This aspect in us, who in me says Aham Brahmasmi? This should be clear for the rest of your Jivan Mukta lives. He declares all of us to be Jivan Muktas, and he says from now on, whenever you say Aham Brahmasmi, who says Aham Brahmasmi? Now, there are two aspects in all of us. The Anatma aspect in me is also called Chidabhasa, or the reflected consciousness. Can the reflected consciousness say Aham Brahmasmi, or is the original consciousness or the Atma can say Aham Brahmasmi? You will see either way there is a problem. Why? Chidabhasa alone is the knower. Because of my mind, I'm able to know whether I am Brahman or not. But the Chidabhasa is Anatma. Chidabhasa can never say Aham Brahmasmi. Chidabhasa is limited, it is not all pervading. But there is the Atma in me, which is also called Chit. Can the Chit say Aham Brahmasmi? Even though Chit is Brahman and it is limitless, it does not have a mouth, it does not have a mind, it cannot do anything by itself. And therefore, who says Aham Brahmasmi? And to all those of you who are listening, let this idea be very clear. Dr. Anupama, please.
Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Now, who says Aham Brahmasmi? First of all, we should know who is this Purusha, who is Jiva, and how did this Jiva come into existence? The word Purusha in this text refers to what we commonly call Jiva. We know that both Jiva and Ishwara are just Pratibimba Chaitanya. And how is this Pratibimba Chaitanya formed? It is formed from the original consciousness, which we call Kutastha. And this Kutastha descends from the Paramarthika to the Vyavaharika field as an avatara. Now, for the reflection to form, there should be a reflecting medium. Who provides this reflecting medium? Maya Jiveshu Karoti. That means Maya provides it. And how so? Abhasena, by creating Vyashti Jiva and Samashti Ishwara. Ishwara creates the objective universe by Ikshana. What is Ikshana? It is a mental visualization of creation. And next is a formation of this reflection in the Sukshma Sharira called Anupravesha. With Anupravesha, that is formation of this reflection in the Sukshma Sharira, the Jiva manifests. And what does Jiva do with this universe? Just what we are doing. Create sorrow out of it with Raga, Dvesha and the kind. So now we seem to be having three entities to deal with. There is Kutastha, the original consciousness, Ishwara and Jiva. Three distinct entities. Not distinct, only seemingly distinct. But we are Advaitans. So we need to remember that Kutastha is the only Paramarthika Satyam. Maya and Avidya are Vyavaharika Satya. Maya Pratibimba Vyavaharika Satyam is Ishvara. And Avidya Pratibimba Vyavaharika Satya is Jiva, Purusha, or what we call Chidabhasa. This Chidabhasa cannot exist independently because it is Mithya, a lesser order of reality. Therefore, Jiva should know the Kutastha as himself. Atmanam Ched Vijaniyat Ayam Asmi Iti. Now, of these three, who am I? Am I the Jiva or Kutastha? Each and every one of us, the Jivatma or Purusha, are a combination of Kutastha, the Sakshi Chaitanyam, the intellect or mind in our body, and this reflection of Kutastha, which we call Chidabhasa. So, when I say Aham, what is the meaning of Aham? Does it mean the original consciousness or reflected consciousness? Let us first understand the concept of Anyonya Adhyasa. Due to the proximity of the mind to the original consciousness, attributes of the original consciousness get interchanged with that of the mind. This is adhyasa, a false notion. So we think the mind is sentient, and location and limitations of the mind are transferred to the original consciousness. Therefore, we say the consciousness is in the Hridaya Granthi and those kind of things. We make the consciousness located and limited, which is not true. So the word aham essentially has three meanings. The primary or mukhyartha, which is also called vachyartha, and there are two secondary meanings, which are also called the bhagatyaga lakshana. So depending upon our understanding, if a person is chidabhasa pradhana, he is also called an ajnani or a samsari, aham to him is an indistinguishable mixture of the original and the reflected consciousness. To him, the original consciousness does not exist. He remains entangled in the cycle of punarapi jananam, punarapi maranam. In contrast, we have a jnani. He is kutastha pradhana. And this jnani only uses the secondary meaning of aham. He has atma anatma viveka. When he is dealing with laukika vyavahara, to him aham means the body-mind complex with chidabhasa. In vaidika vyavahara, when he is doing nididhyasanam, aham to him is chit. Remember, this is only an intellectual separation. So now, who says aham brahmasmi? Jnanita ajnanite tu atmabhasyasya eva nacha atmana tata chakatam abhasa kutastha asmi iti buddhyatam. Here the Purva Pakshi is saying, your Upanishad says, Atmanam ched vijaniyat purusha, meaning Jiva should know the Atma. Now, is this a commandment to the reflected consciousness, the original consciousness, or to the mixture? The Purva Pakshi says, only the reflected consciousness has the faculty to know. So, it cannot involve the original consciousness or the mixture. The answer is here. We know that the original consciousness is the core, the very swarupa of reflected consciousness. Taking the example of a rope snake, the rope is the swarupa of the snake. Therefore, reflected consciousness can refer to original consciousness as I, since kutastha is its very core. Therefore, reflected consciousness is nothing but kutastha, wearing the mask of the chidabhasa in the vyavaharika plane. Here you can think of the wave as the mask and water as the substance. So I am chit, empirically functioning with the mask of unreal chidabhasa. Chidabhasa cannot be the knower if I, the chit, is not existing. Therefore, kutastha, wearing the mask of chidabhasa, claims aham brahmasmi. So, when we say kutastha aham asmi, what are we doing? The brahma amshasya tiraskarat adhishtana pradhanata yada tada chidatma aham asanga asmi iti buddhyate. Each of us know we are a mixture of chidabhasa and kutastha. Although we are all mishras, until we study the Shastra, we don't know this. Since I focus on the evident part, like seeing the movie and not the screen, I claim I am samsari. This wrong focus, abhimanyate aham samsari asmi, instead of aham brahma asmi. Quoting Dakshinamurti Stotra, Vishwam pashyati karya karanataya swaswami sambandataha Esha Purusha Maya Paribhramita. This is the same Purusha. When Kutastha is disowned, we stay in Ajnana Avastha. So what does the Jnani do? He is doing Tiraskara. He is ignoring, he is neglecting the Chidabhasa. How? Through his Viveka, his Atma Anatma Viveka. He is the original consciousness manifesting as reflected consciousness, which we call the Jiva. This is what Krishna meant when he said, Mama eva amsha Jiva loke Jiva bhuta sanatana. Original consciousness and reflected consciousness, remember, are physically inseparable. Yatra yatra abhasa chaitanyam, the Jiva, tatra tatra adhara chaitanyam, the Kutastha. Hence, Jivo Brahma eva naparaha. So in the words of a Jnani, I, the Kutastha, am the substance behind the reflected consciousness. I have a Mithya Chidabhasa as my medium. My knowing faculty is an attribute of Chidabhasya, and hence it is Mithya. The acquired knowledge is Mithya. Mithya knowledge gives me Mithya liberation from samsara.
Thank you very much, Dr. Anupama. That was excellent and an authentic understanding based upon all these words. Now, how do we make it as simple for us to understand? See, in some ways we cannot simplify because this is it. We have to understand that I am a mixture of anatma, which has come to me by Maya through my body-mind complex. The mind in me has the ability to reflect the original consciousness, which is everywhere. For example, when you're fast asleep, the mind is not functioning. We are one with Brahman. The moment we wake up, our mind now becomes a reflector. At that time, the original consciousness reflects on, and the moment we wake up, a new entity is born. The Jiva is born when you wake up. And when you wake up, the original consciousness through this body-mind now sees limitations because of the limitations of my body. However, because I suffer all these limitations, somehow I come to a guru. And the guru through the Shastras will tell you, you are actually playing a role of man, woman, young, old because of this body-mind. All of us, those who are listening and all of us who are here together, should understand we are none as per this. What is this? Naham, Deham. We have done Koham and recognized I am Saha Ahamasmi. I am the Kutastha. The Kutastha is limitless. It is infinite. And to speak or to think, it requires a medium. So we are using this body-mind complex to say, thanks to my guru, I now know that for transactional purposes, I'm a man, woman, young, old, and we play the drama of my life. And if you have understood this, Nandati, Nandati, Nandateva, because from now on, all our sadhanas are over. Then what do we do? As Swami Anubhavananda says, time pass, there is nothing to do, there is nowhere to go, because now I know who I am. All our sadhanas are over at this stage. Then let us have a little more clarity. And the Purva Pakshi, this is the same fellow who comes and challenges the teacher. He says, see, your body-mind is Mithya. You say, agreed. You have gone to a guru who is real or Mithya. My guru is also Mithya. The scriptures that you got, they are also Mithya. Now, with a Mithya guru, with a Mithya scripture, with your Mithya body-mind complex, are you going to get Satya knowledge or Mithya knowledge? So all that we have studied so far is only Mithya. And Purva Pakshi is very happy. He has foxed you. He says, what is the use of all these so many classes that we are understanding? Dr. Anupama, can you clarify this?
So, is knowledge Mithya or Satya? Let's go in the reverse order. If samsara is Satyam, if it is eternal, it will never go away. But we know that moksha is elimination of samsara. Therefore, samsara is also Mithya. Consequently, the departure of samsara has to be Mithya. This means that the liberation got by knowledge is also Mithya. So, as the Purva Pakshi says, are all our sadhanas, the Shravana, Manana, Nididhyasana and all, purposeless? Certainly not. Mithya liberation, although Mithya, does the very valuable job of removing samsara, which thankfully is also Mithya. So let's revise this cascade of Mithyatvam. I, the Kutastha, have a Mithya Chidabhasa. And this has a Mithya knowerhood, through which I get Mithya knowledge. And from this Mithya knowledge, I get Mithya liberation from Mithya samsara. So where is the Satyam? The Paramarthika Drishti that I am the Kutastha is the only Satyam.
Thank you once again. Very nicely clarified. Again, Purva Pakshi thought he had foxed Vidyaranya Swami. See, everything that you're doing is Mithya. But our problem, this rope snake, is also Mithya. And for the rope snake, you don't have to kill that rope. You only have to, don't have to kill the snake. You have to illumine the rope. We have to remove the ignorance. Now, supposing if you are in dream, and in dream, you're extremely thirsty, and you have real water on your bedside, will the real water quench your thirst, or is it the dream water that will quench your thirst? For a Mithya problem, you need a Mithya solution. For a Mithya samsara, we need Mithya jnanam, because our problem is unreal. You know, we see that in our medical practices when a person is having a person, he really thinks that he's got some foreign body in his throat. And sometimes we have to do a process of pretending to remove it, because only then he's convinced that that foreign body has been removed, because we know that the problem is not real. So we have to give a solution also accordingly. Now we have another important Purva Pakshi question. The Purva question, we come to the next word. We finished with Purusha. You know, all this is understanding who is this Purusha. And then we come to Ayam Asmi. Ayam means something. See, you have this Mahavakya, Ayam Atma Brahma. Ayam means that which is very close to you. And what is close to you? Me, myself is very close to you. There can be nothing closer to you. Now, Ayam Asmiti iti Purushaha. So that which is, I have to know the Atma, which is Ayam, which is so proximate. Now, something that is directly in front of you, you will know. You know, it is something that you have experienced all the time. This is the whole problem, or this is the whole greatness of Brahma Vidya. You will understand its beauty. Now, the Purva Pakshi asked this question. When something is so close to you, how can you have ignorance of that something? Because it is there in your experience. You are illumining it all the time. Now, Kutastha is there everywhere. Kutastha is so close to me. How can there be ignorance of Kutastha? See, if something is there, then it cannot be ignorant. If it is not ignorant, if it is not ignorant, there cannot be any knowledge. And if there is no knowledge, knowledge is of two types, Paroksha Jnanam and Aparoksha Jnanam. This whole phrase, Atmanam Ched Vijaniyat Ayam Asmiti Purushaha. So the whole statement gets knocked off if you're not able to understand this doubt. The doubt is, how can you be ignorant of something so close to you? Dr. Anupama, if you can clarify on this.
Okay, so the question is, how can the word Ayam in the Brihadaranyaka mantra be used for Kutastha, which is not an object in the first place? Atmanam Ched Vijaniyat Ayam Asmi Iti, meaning I should know that I am this Kutastha, Aparokshataya. So let us understand the meaning of Paroksha and Aparoksha first. The word Aksha means sense organs, and Para aksha means outside the range of perception of senses. Aparoksha means extra sensory. That means cannot be perceived by sense organs. So, ayam iti aparokshatvam uchyate chet tad uchyatam swayam prakasha chaitanyam aparoksham sadayatah. But you see, the word ayam is something that should be directly in front, something like an object. Vidyaranya says, it is directly and continuously experienced, not as an object, but as a subject. Aparokshataya sada. Paroksham aparoksham cha jnanam ajnanam ityadaha nitya aparoksha rupe api dvayam syad dashame yataha. So, if Kutastha Chaitanya is ever experienced, how can anybody be ignorant of it? There should be no concept of ajnanam of Kutastha, because knowledge is removal of ignorance. If there is no ignorance in the first place, what is the relevance of jnanam? So here the Purva Pakshi says, both ajnanam and jnanam are irrelevant. So what is the necessity of saying Atmanam Ched Vijaniyat? The Purva Pakshi continues to say, Paroksha and Aparoksha Jnanam refer to an object far and near. Kutastha is an ever-experienced subject. Therefore, Paroksha Jnana of Kutastha is irrelevant. If Paroksha Jnanam is irrelevant, why use the word Aparoksha, meaning something other than Paroksha, when Paroksha in itself has no relevance? So Kutastha is trying to say all the four words, Jnanam, Ajnanam, Paroksha, and Aparoksha are irrelevant. And what does Vidyaranya Swami say? He answers 4 questions with just 2 words, Dashame Yataha, and gives the story of the 10th man.
That is why in this chapter, you have so many times the story of the 10th man has come in. So I hope you have understood the Purva Paksha's very relevant question. The word I am is something very close to you. And what is very close to you? It is the Atma. The Atma is so close to me. Even though it is so close to me, I am still ignorant of this fact, isn't it? The whole problem is we do not know I am Atma Brahma. So there is, but he is saying something close to you, you must know. And if you don't have ignorance, how can you have, where is the relevance of knowledge? And if you have knowledge, then you're talking about direct and indirect knowledge. Or, all these don't make any sense to me. Please clarify. So Vidyaranya uses 2 words, Dashame Yatha. He says, just like the 10th man. For us, those who have studied this, we know this Sapta Avasthas of which goes from verse 23 to verse 47. Vidyaranya Swami exploited to the hilt. In so many ways, he classifies the story to be able to tell us our own evolution. Because we know the story, I will not focus too much on the story. There's a story of 10 boys take permission from their teacher to go across the river for a particular function. When they come back, the river is brimful. They have to swim across. So they are all prepared and they're all relieved when they come across. All of them have come across, or they have come across and they're just relaxing, but they do not know for sure if all have come or not. They have not even inquired. But when they have not inquired, they do not know. This is the state of ajnana. I do not know that I do not. So, and this is also what is called ignorance is bliss. And that is how the most of the world population are. They do not know about the existence of God, Brahman, and so on. Suddenly a doubt comes. Have all of them come? And they begin to count. And in the process of counting, what happens? They forget to count themselves. Now there is this phase of, I know that I do not know. I am aware that somebody is missing. So this is called the state of expressed ignorance. I know that I do not know. Now, suddenly an anxiety comes. The anxiety is one person is missing. Now, did he drown? Has he been lost? Is he dead? How do I handle the family? And you get so involved, you enjoy yourself in the whole process. And this is the story of all of us when we are going through Ajnanam, Avarana, and Vikshepa. And the first three phases deal with the problem of Bandhak. Fortunately for us, we have the great Acharyas, Swami Paramarthananda and the other Acharyas who have come to us and who give us initially indirect knowledge or Paroksha Jnanam. And the teacher convincingly tells us, Brahma Asti. And in this story, Dashamaha Asti. Don't worry, the 10th man is there. But I do not know where it is because I am not aware of that. So it becomes an indirect knowledge called Paroksha Jnanam. Then the teacher cannot tell you directly. So, because even if it tells you it is you, you don't understand. The Mahavakya cannot be given directly. The teacher has to do a certain prakriya. The prakriya, as he calls the leader, and ask him to stand and count 1 to 9. And then when he is convinced that 9 people are, then he asks him to count himself. And he says, Tat Tvam Asi, you are the 10th man. Now, when you do a certain process and a prakriya and you have discovered that one that I am looking for, that I am asmi iti, oh, suddenly there comes a sense of recognition. That which I am looking for, that which I've heard about all those glories, Satyam, Jnanam, Anantam. Suddenly, I am Satyam, I am Jnanam, I am Anantam. All my sorrow goes, Tripti comes. And so we have the first 3 phases are the phases of ignorance. And ignorance is because of Avarana. And when the Avarana covers the existence of Brahman, it is called Sattva Avarana. We should know all these terms. And when the Avarana covers the experience of Brahman, until this happened, I did not know about the existence of Brahman. I did not know I was Brahman, that experiencer was Brahman. So there was 2 types of Avaranas. And then we have Paroksha Jnanam and Aparoksha Jnanam. In the Aparoksha Jnanam, there are 2 types. We will go there. The Paroksha Jnanam comes through the verses of the Upanishad, which are called Avantara Vakya. And the Aparoksha Jnanam comes through specific verses of the Upanishad, which are called Mahavakya. All this will be dealt with Dr. Anupama once again. As I said, this story of the 10th man is dealt with many times. Verses 6 and 7 is the phala. Moksha comes from verses, the stage 4 and stage 5, and 1, 2, and 3 are stages of ignorance. Just like the 10th man story, so too we can compare to our own spiritual evolution when we had Ajnanam, Avarana, Vikshepa, Paroksha Jnanam, Aparoksha Jnanam, Shoka Nivritti. So exactly, so up to the verse 70, all these things happen. Now let us be very clear about these terms. Now if somebody asks you, what is Paroksha Jnanam, what is Aparoksha Jnanam, what is Avantara Vakya, what is Mahavakya, what is Sattva Avaranam, what is Bhana Avaranam, I'll request Dr. Anupama to clarify once again. Dr. Anupama, please.
Okay. What is Avantara Vakya and what is Mahavakya? Any Vedic statement which reveals oneness of Jivatma and Paramatma is a Mahavakya. This is called Aikya Bodhaka Vakyam. Like we have seen, Tattvamasi, Aham Brahmasmi, etc. Avantara Vakya, in contrast, are statements that prepare us for the revelation of this Aikyam. The word Avantara means preparatory. For example, Brahman, although without attributes, is described as Nirvikalpam, Analpam, Aksharam, Yet Ksharaksharam Param, and so on. Avantara Vakyenya Paroksha Brahma Dihi Bhavet Sarvatra Eva Mahavakya Vicharat Aparoksha Dihi. Avantara Vakya gives Paroksha Jnana of Brahman, analysis of Mahavakya gives aparoksha jnanam. Continuing with, what is sattva avarana and bhana avarana? Verse 44 says, Jnana dvayena asmin ajnana nashte tatkrita avritihi na bhati na cha asti cha iti esha dvivida api vinashyati. This means avarana is of two types. First, Brahmanasti means people think that Brahman is non-existence. Why? Because the existence of Brahman is concealed by Sattva Avaranam. They're ignorant. The second type of people say, Brahma may exist, but I don't experience Brahman. There is no Brahma Anubhava for me. Brahma is non-existent for me. This concealment of Brahma for me is called Bhana Avaranam. So what is the role of Jnanam? Paroksha Jnanam removes Sattva Avarana. There is a Brahman somewhere, a Parokshataya, means outside of me. For example, statements like Jagat Karana Brahma. The masking of Brahman experience, that means Bhana Avarana, goes away with Aparoksha Jnana. But Brahman experience is there in all avasthas, sada as aham Brahma asmi. Now, coming to the last, the two types of aparoksha jnana, a little more difficult to understand. The verse goes like this, Ayam iti aparokshatvam uktam tad dvividam bhavet. Vishayasya prakashatvad dhya api evam tadikshanat. Ayam here means direct knowledge, and this direct knowledge alone eliminates sorrow and gives bliss. What is the purpose of indirect knowledge or paroksha jnana? We must remember, understood paroksha or indirect jnana is aparoksha or direct jnanam. Direct experience of Kutastha is of two types, as we have seen with the 10th man. Direct experience, it could be Vishaya Swaprakashatvat, meaning a natural or actual directness of a subject. I need no tool to be aware of myself. Remember, this awareness can coexist with Paroksha Jnana. Directness of a subject can also be understood by the intellect, as when a guru says Tattvamasi. Even the indirect or paroksha jnana, aparokshatva, that means the first type, the Vishaya Swaprakashatvat knowledge, aparoksha jnana, is present even when a person has paroksha jnana, because he's always there. But the second type, that means understood by the intellect, happens only when a guru teaches us about it. For example, when we hear Tattvamasi, this 10th man gets a kind of a new directness. A directness becomes new with knowledge. He does not convert from paroksha to aparoksha. He's just the same. He's aparoksha all the time. So, understood paroksha jnanam is aparoksha. The Upanishad says, what you name as Jivatma is what I name as Brahman. That's all.
Thank you very much, Dr. Anupama. You've touched on some of the most difficult aspects.
I don't know whether I got it through. I was struggling.
I will go through it once again. Aksha means, one meaning is eyes, but Aksha means also sense organs. Para Aksha, that means something beyond my sense organs, something that I cannot see directly. So something remote and something very far away. We usually give this example of Niagara Falls or Kailash Manasarovar, where you would like to go and see, but I know much about them. When I get knowledge through the internet, when I get indirect knowledge. So Para Aksha Jnanam is called indirect knowledge. There is another word which is called Pratyaksha. Pratyaksha. One day I traveled to Niagara. One day I traveled to Kailash Manasarovar or the Chardham, Badri or Kedar, and I have that grace to be able to see what I could see in my own eyes. That is called Pratyaksha. When you are able to discover something very intimate, something aspect about yourself which you do not know, and somebody tells you about yourself, that knowledge about yourself which you did not know, but because someone else is able to see you and get that knowledge, and now I know something about myself, that knowledge is called aparoksha. So knowledge can be classified into three: paroksha, remote or indirect knowledge; pratyaksha, which I can see by myself; and aparoksha. In this text, you must understand knowledge about our own nature, which we do not know, but which is given to us by the teachers, will become aparoksha. The paroksha knowledge about Brahman is given to us by various scriptural verses like Satyam, Jnanam, Anantam, Brahma, as Dr. Anupama. But then in the scriptures everywhere, you have those Mahavakyas. In fact, all these Avantara Vakyas prepare you for the Mahavakya. The Mahavakya is like the climax. And in the climax, you get to understand that you are not just this body-mind complex, but you are someone extraordinary who's using this body-mind complex. That is when Tripti comes, then is all the Shoka comes, that when is the celebration of life comes. In the process, there are two more terms that can be understood. Avarana means covering. Brahman exists, but I do not know Brahman exists. That the covering of Brahman is called when Brahman is covered, the existence of Brahman is covered is called Sattva Avaranam. When I am not able to experience Brahman, either in the form of an object of my experience or the experiencer myself, that is called Bhana Avaranam. And when these two are uncovered, then I get to know about Brahman and I get to know I am Brahman. There are two more terms that I want to finally touch on, which are little difficult terms. Dr. Anupama has done her best to explain. Within aparoksha, for example, the 10th man was always the 10th man. So it is called swabhavika. It is your very nature. It is like I am Atma, Brahma is my very nature. But I did not know it until the Guru told me. So that aspect of me, aparokshatva, was always there. For example, Karna was always Karna, even before his mother told him that he was Karna. But once he was introduced to who he was by the mother and given proof by her stories, then he understood who he really was. And therefore, my true nature can be its natural state, or it can be something understood, as explained by this verse 49, which Dr. Anupama did her very best to explain. Let me tell you in the form of a story, and I was fortunate to listen to Swami Dayananda himself, and he, in his very characteristic way, was describing his flight from Chennai to Delhi. And he had an Australian sitting next to him, and he said he was a little big and he was bulging beyond his seat. And Dr. Swami Dayananda is very extrovert. He will never keep quiet. And he was talking, and the two of them had a gala conversation. And as they went, one of the conversations, where are you going to? Goes to, and that Australian described that I'm traveling to Rishikesh. And Swamiji said, Rishikesh? Oh, wonderful. Where in Rishikesh? I'm going to meet a certain Swamiji. I cannot recollect his name. And he pulled out a small slip of paper, which read Swami Dayananda Saraswati Purana Jadi. Now, so he was in contact, physical contact. He was able to see, he was able to speak to with Swami Dayananda. That means in a form of, I can use a word, he had a direct knowledge of Swamiji, but he did not know that he was Swamiji. I may be Atma, but I do not know that I am that until the teacher tells me. So when the teacher introduces you to yourself, and when Swamiji introduced himself, then you will see scriptural words are of two types: words of information and words of introduction. I will conclude. Just note down these few words. What is this aparokshanubhuti? One of the most important words in the whole of Vedanta is I am. I represent consciousness, am represents existence. And if you want to claim who you are, if any guru asks you who you are, you say I am. But the moment you say your name something else, you become anatma. Brahma Anubhava, we experience all the time as whatever experience you're listening to me, and that is Brahma Anubhava. Pratibodha Viditam Matam. In every experience you are experiencing Brahma Anubhava. Because of Brahman, we are conscious of everything. What we need is words of introduction. Initially, we will need words of information that you are someone great, Satyam, Jnanam, Anantam, and all that. But then that Satyam, Jnanam, Anantam is you. The very evident awareness because of which you're able to listen to me, which we say aham, aham, I am, that consciousness alone declared to yourself is Brahman. This is a Mahavakya. This is what is called Aparoksha Brahma Jnanam. Aparoksha Brahma Jnanam is not a new experience. It is not a new knowledge. It is something that was always there. But this has been given to you by words of introduction through the Mahavakya Tattvamasi. And this new knowledge is called Aparokshanubhuti. From the next class onwards, we will do a Mahavakya Vichara. But Swamiji concludes in this with a very powerful conclusion. Once you know who you am, who you are, after you have a clear understanding that you are the Dashamaha, that you are Atma, my dear friends, take this from me, take this from Swamiji. Nothing more is required for the rest of your Jivan Mukti life than this understanding. All your sadhanas is over. Whatever we do is now Tat Chintanam, Tat Katanam, which we will see in the next week's class, Anyon Tat Prabodhanam, is a tend to remind yourself and move from Jnanam to Jnana Nishta. So what have we done? We have understood who I am in the words of Purusha. Aham, I am, Asmi. This I am, we have also understood. We have gone through those 7 states of the individual. We have gone from direct knowledge to indirect knowledge. This concludes verse 70. From the next class onwards, from verse 70 to 96, Vidyaranya Swami will analyze Mahavakya through Adi Shankara's Vakya Vritti. So selected verses of Vakya Vritti. And after that, once the knowledge has been firmly given through Mahavakya Vichara, all this will be introduction to the next class's summary. We will be working on Nidityasanam. You know, I know all this, but still there are blocks. And these blocks are classified into 3. We will discuss them last. And finally, what is this Viparita Bhavana and so on. I will conclude today's class by helping you to remember what Swamiji always wants us to remember. Once you know your true nature, claim this. I am of the nature of eternal and all-pervading consciousness. I am the only source of permanent peace, security, and happiness. By my mere presence, I give life to this material body, and through this material body, I experience this material universe. I am not affected by anything that happens to the material world or to the material body-mind complex because I, as Atma, I am of a higher order of reality. Bodies come and go, but I go on forever. By forgetting my real nature, I convert life into a burden. And as like Dakshina Murti Stotra keeps one foot on Apasmara, by remembering, I convert life into a blessing. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha.
Thank you very much, Dr. Hegde sir and Dr. Anupama ma'am, for explaining to us in such simple and clear terms about Chit, Chidabhasa, the 10th man story, so many new terms, and the claiming of Aparoksha Brahma Gnanam, that Aham Brahmasmi. Paradigm shift is a term very commonly used nowadays, but this is it. The shift from the limited suffering samsari me to the infinite, unchanging, unaffected me. We are eternally grateful for these classes for hand-holding us through this life-changing process. Our sincere gratitude to all our viewers for staying with us through the study of Tripti Deepa. Please join us on the 23rd of October at 6:45 p.m. as we learn the final sets of verses. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Thank you.